stick with the boring topics today because it's like 5 below and I just want to get out of here. But there's an obscure element of law that I don't think anybody in crypto is really paying attention to, and that's unclaimed property. So if you go whatever state you're in, if you look on your state, like Secretary of State website, whatever, there's this unclaimed property. And you hear these stories about people like, having a dead relative or whatever, and then they find out that, they died and they had $10,000 in an account and they get the account. Well, it's the same concept and it's the same law. It's unclaimed property law, and it is the law in every state. Okay, there's something called the Uniform Unclaimed Property Law. Every state has it, and most businesses are actually liable to comply at the risk of being fined or something to that extent. So you've got all these cryptocurrency exchanges, right? You have all these ICO companies, and they're all holding property, right? And that property can be what the IRS claims as property, which is cryptocurrency, or it could be what the SEC would like to say cryptocurrency is, and that's like a securities or even a commodity for the CFTC. And all of those companies, right, whether it's Coinbase, Kraken, you name it, they all have to follow these unclaimed property laws. And the reality is they probably have no mechanism to do this for, right? And those ICO companies that are, to expand into the argument, those ICO companies that sold security tokens, they're not operating, or they're acting as their own securities transfer agent, right? Whereas you have to get licensed to become a securities transfer agent, see, with the SEC. And so you've got two problems. At the state level, there's no compliance with these property laws. And there's also a dichotomy, if you think about it. What if somebody dies? What if somebody gets divorced, right? You have these laws with that are called escheatment that relate to, property transfers upon certain legal events. Dying being the biggest one. When you die, you don't have a will, that property becomes part of a probate estate. When you're going through like a marital divorce or something like that, you've got, court orders that divide property, right? And you've got no mechanism, as far as I can tell, within any of these cryptocurrency exchanges or like ICO platforms, especially the utility platforms, to effectuate that transfer, right? So there's this major lack of compliance. And while it's a completely arcane and boring area of law, it's an area of law that if you don't actually have a program in place, you can get fined, right? And you can have serious ramifications because you're effectively not abiding by a court order, right? So the principles of contempt kick in, and then, contempt can breed fines and what have you, a whole legal morass that you don't want to get into. So it's something that's just not there but needs to be there. And the programs to, develop and deal with abandoned property and how you turn abandoned property, in this case, abandoned crypto, right? Even if it's Bitcoin, right? An abandoned Bitcoin account with crypto, with Coinbase, for instance, needs to be sent over to the state that the owner resides in if there's, if that's truly been abandoned. So that's wildly ignored in cryptocurrency, right? Now, on the other hand, you've got the security tokens, and admittedly, I'm a bit partial because I own a registered securities transfer agency, but you've got security tokens that are being transferred, and there's a whole host of rules that apply to internally how these transfers are effectuated, right? Like, for instance, if I want to sell a security to somebody else, by law, okay, per SEC regulation, that has to be accomplished in 48 hours. Well, if you're acting as your own transfer agent, which is possible to do and legal to do, but usually only banks do it, you have to make sure that compliance is there. So I don't know if there's, a security token issuer out there that is truly complying with the rules that apply to transfer agents or companies that want to act as their own transfer agents, right? And that could lead them to legal liability, not so much because of what we focus on, which is whether or not it's a security, but sort of rather arcane and inane rules about how things are transferred, right? And that can go for, again, the whole range of like legal issues, right? From divorce to death to just simple transfer to bankruptcy even, right? How do you comply with bankruptcy laws when you have no internal system for dealing with property and dealing with court orders? So it's an odd thing. I have no point other than if you are running a cryptocurrency exchange, thinking of starting one, thinking of even starting a crypto-based hedge fund, and definitely if you've got some sort of ICO planned or have already completed and you've got your own token out there, you have to create a platform or at least some mechanism, or at least, biannually you go in there and you actually review for abandoned property and then turn those over to the respective states, which can be a pain. I mean, it's not easy it is an administrative sort of pain, but it's a lot better than the alternative in states, especially as they're getting hit, financially and looking for money. They're looking for that float, right? Like if you turn over money to them, they earn money on that float. So it's become a hot button issue. Like Illinois, for instance, where I am, just recently changed its laws to enhance and increase the penalties related to unclaimed property and how you deal with that, and for non-compliance by companies. So if you are starting it, check it out. Check out clearingx.com. That's my SEC registered transfer agent. And then you can find me always at bitcoin-lawyer.org or tracyfirm.com. Take care.